Hello and welcome to the Teal Crash podcast. I'm here with Cui. So, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
So, it's very interesting your channel. You've been more focused on music lately, so that's pretty interesting. But you also before were making gaming videos on your channel. So, anything you want to say about that?
So as I have talked about plenty of times before, I have been a lot more interested in writing and producing music. If anyone's even bothered to listen to them, I'm a huge fan of EDM, things like dubstep, drum and bass, house music. And actually, as of right now, I have started learning guitar as well. Because I figured I should have, some knowledge of how to play it. I've been thinking about switching up my style a lot, going from my usual, you know, dubstep house sort of style to more of, something like Linkin Park or even Cell Dweller, if you have heard of him. Good music, by the way. But my point being is like, although I was really passionate about YouTube, years ago, like say 2018, 19, 20, you know, but as of right now, it's lost its touch a bit. And yes, I'm aware that I still upload right now, but I've made it clear like I don't really like upload that frequently. I just upload whenever I feel like it. YouTube just feels like, a small time hobby, but as of right now, I am a lot more ambitious when it comes to my music because I feel like that's the area where I have the most potential. So,
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'm making music too, so it's interesting, right, to hear from someone else's perspective because I make instrumental tracks, like different types of music genres, but also like sometimes I'll add vocals on it. I'm interested in hip hop. I sing also, but it's pretty
I'll definitely,
interesting.
I'll definitely, I'll definitely consider hiring you for vocals if I need some.
But I wanted to talk about like the process. I would say I'll just pick like one song out of it because one of my favorite songs out of the songs I was listening to out of your songs was Universe. I think that one stand out the most to me. That's just to me, so maybe your opinion might be different of that song, but maybe you can tell me maybe a story or the process with that track. Maybe any instruments stand out with that track.
Okay, so for with the instrument that stands out, I would say the guitar. I'd say like that's probably the
Yeah,
most
definitely.
iconic part of that song. And the thing is, like, I didn't use, I didn't record a guitar or anything. I didn't have any samples. Like, I made that guitar completely from scratch. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Nice.
Um, but otherwise, my writing process, it really just, it's kind of, complex. Like, I mean, we could be here all day if I sat here talking about how to write a song. Like, it took me years to know what I know now. Um, but I mean, I guess if we want to talk about my favorite track as of right now, that would be my latest one, White Lotus. I've not just because, it's got my usual style, but it's also got some nice vocals. It's also got, I think that I would have to say White Lotus would be my favorite track as of right now. Like it started to skyrocket, a little bit. I went from 2 monthly listeners, maybe even less than that, to I think like it's around 150 monthly listeners.
That's
Um,
nice.
so so yeah, right now I'm actually talking with a lot of distributors right now. I am just trying to see if there's anything I can do with my other tracks, if there's any way I can direct more attention towards my Spotify, more attention towards my SoundCloud, stuff like that. Um it there was something else that I knew I had to talk about. What was it? Honestly, all right, well, whatever it is, I think I forgot it, but I
Okay.
hopefully that, explains a little bit about, my music. So,
Yeah. Now I want to talk about like the cover art for the songs. Do you make that cover art yourself?
no, my friend Kai works on them for me. I granted I could do it on my own, but seeing as like Kai has, he's basically like a freelance. He's basically wants a career as an artist. So I'm like, yo, dude, mind if you make me some art? And it's just, point being, I just have him make the art because I just feel like it. He actually brings it to life more than if I were to try to make it myself. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, I would say for me, I actually do make my own cover art because I don't know. For me specifically, like like to have my more artistic direction with my cover art. So like the cover art like fits the song, but it seems like from what you're saying, he knows how to fit like the art to match with the song also. So that's good for you. But for me, I do it myself because I think it's one of those things where I kind of like control over like everything with my stuff. So like I'll be like, oh right, I'll make my own music, but also I'll make my own cover art. But also it might be something of just like write my own artistic like decisions, because it'll be different from like what like maybe someone who makes art in a specific style. Mine will be like different because right, I do make songs that are like different music genres, so my art might be different. So it was interesting to hear because obviously for different musicians, they do depend on like someone else for like a cover art. But would that be something like in the future you would still be going like having him make your cover arts because he's just right so good at doing that?
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, like
That's good.
I've known Kai for 4.5 years. So I definitely like he's more than just like an artist at this point. He's kind of like become a close friend of mine. So, and even then, like I mean, I still see a lot of people who struggle with like finding a good artist because they just know like their art doesn't feel, good enough.
Or it might be
So
expensive. Yeah,
yeah, or expensive.
definitely.
People just don't have all that money to waste. But I'm lucky that I have found Kai. Like, if anything, like if anyone needs graphics, I would recommend hiring him. You know, he deserves it. Like I feel like he deserves a lot more recognition in a sense. So,
Yeah, cool. Okay, so next question I have would be, I guess it would be about like, has there been any challenges with you making your songs, like with the mixing? Definitely that's one of the biggest problems for musicians is like mixing, because it's just one of those things where
oh,
sometimes instruments clash.
yes, I can definitely name an easy one for this. So, my track Sine Waves, I don't know if you've heard it yet, but the version you hear now was different from the version I originally had planned for it. So, I plan to like try to have a different build up, a different style to it, but every time like I tried to, there was always an issue. Either the drums weren't sidechained correctly, or some of the sounds were a bit too loud or too quiet. And overall, that original version was just a mess. But if you listen to the version out today, it may not be how I wanted it to be, but I think it still sounds like a good track, nonetheless. So
Yes, I've heard that before where um, with this musician Quedeca, he had like the,
everything okay? Or
yeah, everything's good now. I don't know, it's just probably just like a random thing with the microphone. So what was I saying?
we were talking about any issues you have with your writing process.
I think it was it was with the mixing.
Yeah, the mixing. Yeah.
So you were talking about your song's sound. Wait, I'm gonna go back. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so basically, what I was talking about was with this musician Quebec. He was talking about how his original version was much more raw, and he liked the way it sounded because of specific parts stood out more. But with his released version, that was more mastered and sounded better with the mixing. Um, like obviously, it sounded better, but like I said, compared to the original version, there was instruments that stood out more, and it was more raw. So it's very interesting, like to see like other musicians talk about like the process of like mixing, where it like the version that you might hear of the song will sound like really good, but then maybe if you were to hear the raw version, maybe there would be some instruments that would stand out more, because there's this thing right about where sometimes it's really cool to hear the instruments stand out, like, and be a little bit louder, but sometimes it can take away from the song, that one part of the song. So sometimes it's better to have that instrument a little bit more quieter, like people can still hear it, but it's going along with the other instruments. Have anything to say about that?
Nope, I think that pretty much sums it up how, your writing process can be sometimes. I definitely have had that same thing happen before. Um, so I completely get that whole thing, especially since I've, experienced it myself.
Yeah, I would say for me, yeah, mixing can be a problem, but there's times where it's like I gotta release this song because it just, I like the way it sounds. So depending on what musician it is, sometimes some musicians just want to release the song because they just want it out there, and some musicians are very careful of what song they release because some people really want to perfect their craft. So anything you have to say about that?
Not really. I think that pretty much
Yeah,
sums it up
makes sense.
perfectly. I mean, I personally like I've had more of a quality over quantity motto. I always try to
Yeah,
put a lot of work into my stuff, because I feel like because I mean that's what I've started doing as of lately. Instead of like trying to pump out a release, every month or so, I've actually started like taking a lot more time to try to make them because I feel like I mean, I feel like if I take longer to work on my stuff and then release it out there, I feel like in the end I get a much better product rather than if I just sit here and try to rush out a song every month or something. Like I was gonna try to have another one out by Christmas, literally yesterday, at the time we're recording this, but unfortunately I did not get it finished. So I'm gonna try to have it out by early sometime next month in January 2023. But apart from that, I completely like you know get it. Like at the end of the day, like I have seen a lot of artists do the same thing, so I completely get it.
yeah. So this actually opens up a little bit of an interesting conversation about musicians that take like what would it be like 2 or 3 years to like release an album. It's very interesting to see people react to that, where they'll be like, "Oh, we're still waiting for this album," or even for like a song, people will be like, "Oh, we're still waiting for this song," and some people are really obsessed over that, where it's like with musicians where because like the fans were like, oh, we want to hear new music. And do you think, right, they should like at least appreciate like the music they already have or something like that?
Yeah, I really feel like I get it. There are a lot of sounds that may not sound good or whatever. Like the thing is, like from what I've heard, it takes years before you're ever truly satisfied with your first ever song. I mean, music isn't just something you can snap your fingers and just accomplish like that. I mean, despite what people say, like I still have seen people just be like, "Oh, I won't be a musician. All I need to do is just take this beat, rap over it, and then boom, I'm a musician." Now, like, no, you actually like need to learn, you know, music theory. You need to learn, how to actually write a track. You need to learn how to go about it. Like again, it took me years to start producing this. I started producing music when I was 12. I am 19, just less than 2 weeks shy of 20, so it definitely like takes a while. Point being,
Yeah. So I have an interesting question because I was thinking about it, because since you're in the realm of making EDM music, is that really like the music genre you're gonna stick to, or would you ever like try to maybe make maybe one song in like a different music genre?
Well, like I said earlier in this interview, I have considered making electronic rock, which it's basically a combination of rock
Well,
and
yeah,
electronic music. I
yeah,
talked about doing that. That's not really. It's not really EDM. I think it's just its own genre of its own.
yeah,
Like I said, I try to switch to something like Linkin Park or Cell Dweller or anything like that. Um, but I mean, obviously, I think right now my best course of action is to learn guitar, just so I'm not having to, you know,
yeah,
because I either make them from scratch or I have my buddy Z record guitar for me, and I think if I try to learn guitar on my own a little bit more, then I should be able to try to sort of make more of that electronic rock style because I have no doubts I can do it. I mean, part of music is you just got to experiment with different shit and then you should have something that you like. So
yeah. That's good. And with guitar, you can get really good sound out of it. So yeah, especially even with that Universe song, right? That had guitar in it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's not much else I have to ask. It was really interesting, right, to hear you talk about a lot of different things to do with music. Uh, was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I mean, as of for what it stands, I don't have a lot to talk about music, but anything else, like, hey, I mean, I can sit here all day. I mean, for what I don't have work today, I have nothing else planned, so we can sit here and talk all day if you'd like. It could be just about anything.
Yeah, I guess I'll just end this with one more question. How was Christmas?
Pretty
And
good.
yeah, that's good.
Pretty good.
How is the weather?
It's pretty chilly down here. I mean, I live in Texas, so it is pretty usually pretty hot down here, but I will admit it's been interesting because it has snowed um this year and last year as well. So it definitely it's interesting, but it's also like, you know, I I definitely remember last year no one was prepared for the snowstorm. February 15th, 2021. Yeah, nobody here in Texas was prepared to have that. So,
Yeah, for me, outside right now it's like a winter wonderland. Like it's like everything's covered in like snow, and it's like while everything is covered in snow, it's still snowing and it's falling down from the sky. So it's not. It was a crazy storm before, but now it's just like it's like a wallpaper or whatever, like a moving wallpaper or whatever. So like it's pretty nice. So yeah, I got nice trees. Like it kind of looked like Christmas trees outside, so that's pretty interesting. Yeah. So I don't know. That's all I had to say. So, anyways, thank you for being on the podcast.
anytime.
Yeah. So there's nothing else to say, but this has been the Teal Crash podcast, and yeah, goodbye. Peace out. Have a good day.
Too.
See ya.